The lights fell down on the reunion stage just as Karlie Redd came forward, with her voice low yet strong. Dropping the everyone had been chattering about he spent the night, she claimed with eyes. A startled silence rippled over the room. Phones sprang out, faces turned pale as the name Kirk ricocheted around the room. Rumors had been brewing for weeks. Late night messages, mysterious social media postings, and quiet corridor murmurs. But no one was prepared for Karlie's unvarnished confession. Viewers are outraged, relationships are splitting, and the Frost family is on the verge of disintegration. Karlie's emotions were strong as she paced backstage, repeating every stolen look and concealed text. Rasheeda Frost's serenity snapped as she returned to the green room, ready to tell the truth or set the record fire. When she heard Karlie's assertion, "You lied to me," she screamed between gritted teeth and slammed a water bottle against. Meanwhile, young Jock paced in anguish, caught between loyalty and treachery, while pals hurried to select sides. Is there any proof beyond Karlie's dramatic speech? Amid murmurs of a leaked DNA report, midnight rendezvous circulate over social media, leaving the family split, and spectators are on the edge of their seats, dying to hear whether Karlie is uncovering a scandal or organizing the ultimate revenge. The stage is prepared. The actors are in place, and the fallout is about to begin. Karlie's remarks lingered in the air backstage, creating a swirl of frenzied murmurs and ruined alliances. Rasheeda, face pale and eyes flaming, smashed her palm into a locker, shaking the metal. Staff members froze, unsure whether to act or pull away. Young Jock lingered close, divided between soothing Rasheeda and confronting Kirk. The tension was electrifying, with each pulse booming like a drum roll before doom. Without a screenplay to follow, they were inventing their answers to a controversy that threatened to devour them. Karlie sat on a foldable chair beneath the bright lights of the green room, and her chest-heaving. Viewers at home were falling. Theories fans across social media were astonished, repeating the footage on loop and examining every frame. Alliances broke as confidants exchanged worrisome looks. Some whispered that Karlie had unearthed text messages. Others thought she was weaving stories for publicity. But none could resist the weight of her charge. Kirk Frost, the loving spouse, had purportedly spent the night with Karlie Redd in the hallway. Kirk's stride halted as approached, its jaw shook. Perspiration beaded on his brow. He had heard the tale's late-night calls, cryptic tweets, but had pushed them away, secure in his protestations, until now when he saw Rasheeda's tight posture and the phone pressed. His world inverted. He opened his lips to speak, but no words came out. When his fragility was left naked before the cameras, his carefully built image disintegrating, young Jock finally spoke, his voice shaking with desperation. "We need to handle this now," he murmured, clutching Kirk's shoulder. Jock's allegiance was divided. He had called Kirk brother for years and had embraced Karlie as a friend recently. Forced to pick between two people he greatly loved, Jock's voice broke. "Karlie, what evidence do you have, Kirk? Explain yourself." This question was both a plea and a challenge, piercing through the commotion like a scalpel. Karlie rose and retrieved her phone. Her fingers trembled as she opened the screen, but her demeanor remained steadfast. "Text from Kirk," she murmured gently, "and a timestamp. See for yourself." She gave the smartphone to Rasheeda. As she scanned through message after message, her eyes filled with tears. She couldn't stop thinking about last night, which she apologized for. "What I said, meet me at the old studio." The last snapshot showed a location pin put at Karlie's residence with an arrival time far after midnight. Rhea, single quotations as her composure shatters, collapsed to her knees, gripping the phone like a lifeline. "How could you?" she cried, anguish wrenching her body. Knelt by her, terror in his eyes. "I never intended this," he cried. It was a mistake, but his words were empty. Jock caressed Rasheeda's back, mumbling comfort, but unable to heal the divide his actions had caused. Glanced to Kirk, looking for truth in his friend's somber gaze. Everyone in that hallway felt the weight of the moment. Production assistants stood at attention, unsure whether to summon security or just let the drama. Overhead cameras on standby buzzed, like silent witnesses. The border between performance and reality blurred. They were intended to amuse an audience, but their personal lives had becoming the most explosive plot possible. Karlie felt a stab of guilt as she observed Rasheeda's anguish. He sought to uncover a betrayal but hadn't expected the extent of Rasheeda's pain. Memories of their relationship rushed across her head. Late night Heart-to-Hearts shared laughter equally, and now those memories were tarnished forever, clouded by lies. She bit her lip, fighting remorse. She stayed steadfast in her determination that the truth had to come out. As she raised her head, tears streamed down her face. Her voice, while trembling, held steel. "You promised me forever," she murmured, looking at Kirk. You told me I was the Kirk had formed his life around those promises, making the betrayal all the more painful. Kirk's shoulders fell, and he looked like the guy who had lost everything. In an instant, in that heated stillness, Jock cleared his throat. "We can get through this," he suggested softly. His words were a fragile bridge. A shard of optimism among the wrecked Jock looked to Karlie and said, "Now what?" Karlie inquired, looking at her phone before returning her gaze to Jock. "Let the world see," she said. "What has been hidden?" Jock nodded unwillingly, understanding that as they gathered themselves, they realized that their private agony was going to be made public. The next portion of the reunion loomed, and they would shortly come onto the stage under bright lights, with cameras rolling. Every spectator will see the raw consequences of the bombshell Karlie had delivered. Producers communicated via earpieces, preparing cues and tweaking microphones. The air crackled with expectancy. Tension grew with each passing second, and knowledge of the scandal had already spilled outside those boundaries. Reporters outside set up cameras, anxious for any shred of news. Fans yelled Karlie's name in the foyer, jockeyed for position, waiting for a reply from Kirk and Rasheeda. The rumor mill buzzed faster than ever. Would Kirk confess on public television? Could Rasheeda forgive him? And was there more to the story than Karlie had revealed? Backstage monitors showed the crowd filling the studio seats, unaware of the full depth of the crisis. Cheered out of footage of previous highlights, oblivious that history was about to be changed in front of their eyes. Jock curled tensely alongside her, his warm presence a memory of earlier days before distrust poisoned everything. Kirk followed a step behind, anxiousness emanating from him in tangible waves. While Karlie faced the cameras with calm conviction, the set with its brilliant colors and rehearsed portions seemed like an ill-fitting background for the intense anguish and betrayal that charged the air. The host welcomed them with her iconic cheer, her words pouring over the listeners' enthusiastic claps. Everyone held their breath for a second, waited to see whether they would follow the show's well-crafted outline or tear the script completely. Karlie shared a meaningful look with Jock before turning her gaze outward. She cleared her throat and spoke calmly. Persistent, and the crowd leaned forward. "We all came here tonight expecting entertainment," she began, "but there's a truth that has to be shared." Murmurs swept across the audience. Cameras shifted from disbelieving expressions to Rasheeda's shaking look. Fans are horrified by the headline. Yet, at that point, the studio served as a testing ground for something much more dramatic than any reality show drama. Quotations. S' eyes narrowed as the words struck her like an icy cold wave. Recollections of laughter whispering secrets. Promises spoken in dimly lit rooms all seemed poisoned, so she turned to Jock for consolation. His austere demeanor, but finding only worry written huge on his face, he grasped her hand under the table, gave it a comforting squeeze, but his gaze glanced toward Kirk with unsaid queries. Kirk caught in the glare, he swallowed hard and walked forward, quivering beneath Rasheeda's stare and the expectant hush. If the audience, whether this is about what occurred last week, he began, uneasiness vibrating in his voice, but Karlie cut in her tone steadfast. "It's exactly about that, Kirk," she whispered gently, holding out her phone and the screen. Lighting her determined face, she touched, and the big screen wall behind them flared into life, revealing a time-stamped message string labeled with Kirk's name. The crowd gasped collectively as the first text appeared. "I can't stop thinking about you." Rasheeda's breath caught. Jock's eyes widened. Kirk's face turned ashen for the following 30 seconds. The studio was overwhelmed by the digital evidence, many messages, explicit apologies, and allusions to 3:14 a.m. when Kirk allegedly drove. Rasheeda was reminded of the broken when the film concluded. Rasheeda stood from her seat with her arms crossed, curled about herself, her voice quivering with betrayal. "You lied," she muttered, tears welling up in her eyes. "Me, every time you claimed you loved me." The camera turned, gone beyond control. Jock stood with his chest heaving, indicating his inner tension. He walked nearer Rasheeda, giving her a shoulder to rely on. Switched his eyes to Kirk, quietly asking answers beyond an apology. Karlie witnessed the emotional damage she'd put in action with a combination of elation and sorrow, revealing the night's happenings while seeing grief unfold in front of thousands of spectators was more difficult than she had imagined. The cameras recorded every quiver of Rasheeda's lips, every shaky breath, and every flash of shame in Kirk's eyes. She felt the weight of obligations descend over her. There was no moral high ground here, just the awareness that truth needs to be disclosed behind her in the harsh lights of scrutiny. Tabloid headlines would follow social, the media would explode with suspicion, and the Frost family would be permanently divided as the host sought to steer the discussion toward interviews and lighthearted banter. Jock softly interrupted that we need to speak about why this occurred, he replied, voice low enough that only the major players could hear. He stared at Kirk. What made you go there? Kirk closed his eyes, the revelation wedged like a stone in his throat. I was lonely, he admitted, and I felt unheard. Home. Karlie listened, she understood, felt like comfort, at a time when I wasn't thinking. Straight. Rasheeda's tears flowed. Jock placed his arm around her. But it doesn't explain it, she sobbed. You, Kirk, picked her over me. Jock's face softened. You both need to hear each other, he mumbled. The host, anticipating another dramatic twist, whirled back to Karlie. Do you have something to add? Karlie took a steadying breath as she asked. Just that this isn't about me, she replied. It's about the truth that no one wanted to hear. She put her phone aside and shifted her attention to Rasheeda, giving a nod of sympathy. We saw that Rasheeda was the one most seriously hurt. And she flashed a brittle grin, the type that preceded either forgiveness or irreparable breach. Kirk slipped inside his jacket and brought out a folded piece of paper. Gasps coursed through the crowd. Jock arched an eyebrow. Rasheeda's sobs halted in midstream, and Kirk's voice quivered as he unfurled it. An email thread from his own account sent to an unknown DNA lab seeking a paternity test was sent days before Karlie's public accusation. I sought clarity, and Kirk confessed that if I could show I hadn't been disloyal, your misgivings would evaporate. Rasheeda's forehead wrinkled. Jock tightened his fists. Karlie's eyes widened. Surprised, the host breathed a hesitant chuckle, her professionalism slipping. So, you were testing me instead of talking? To me, Rasheeda demanded. Kirk hung his head. I was scared of what I'd discover, he said. I was also afraid of losing you. The news triggered another round of collective gasps. Fans are startled. Commentators would subsequently, right when the stage shimmered with new drama. Rasheeda turned to Jock, voice stiff. Jock's look was sad. Divided between devotion and affection, he couldn't. The presenter leaned forward, recognizing the gravity of the occasion, and clicked her pen, preparing to transition to commercial. But none of them could break away from the electrifying charge of revelation as the cameras cut to a backstage break. Producers hurried to alter the rundown. They had never seen a contributor move so dramatically from friend to adversary, lover to accuser. Murmurs flooded the hallways. Will Rasheeda forgive Kirk? Will Karlie be outcast for revealing the truth? Can Jock preserve the peace? The crowd outside hummed like a swarm. As they awaited the return on social media, hashtags trended within seconds, and news tickers updated in real time. The Frost family's downfall had become the story of the season in the stillness of the break. Karlie steadied her breathing as they confronted their own reflection, dealing with the repercussions of their revelation. Rasheeda collected herself, a combination of rage and sadness motivating her next action. Kirk stroked his brow with remorse, dot carved deep in every line of his face. A producer gestured from the wings, signifying a live feed from social. The screen behind them lighted up with messages, hashtag Frost family, divided hashtag Ken, DRAX, reveals fans stunned. Will Rasheeda forgiveness comments scrawled quickly? The presenter turned to the camera, justice and mending. Frequently begin with community, she said, your voices count. Express your opinions, Jock closed. His eyes, as if preparing for Rasheeda, peered over the scrolling remarks with rage flaring. Kirk bent his head, eyes hurting from 1,000 glares. Public opinion shouldn't dictate our choices, she whispered. In that tense stillness, Rasheeda's aide approached her with a little notepad containing transcripts. Phone calls, the assistant stated softly, times and dates matching Kirk's texts. Rasheeda took the notepad. Flipping over pages of robotic transcripts, he leaned in to read lines that indicated last week's calls lingered. Long after midnight, traceable to Kirk's personal number, Rasheeda's lips parted in disbelief. We have proof, she whispered gently. He never told me. Kirk looked stunned, and Jock laid a hand on Kirk's shoulder, steadying him as the weight of his deception heaped upon itself. The host grasped the enormity of the situation and led them back to the sofa. Evidence might hurt, she said, but it also opens the door to responsibility. Rasheeda glanced at the page, tears streaming freely now. Accountability, she whispered to Kirk. What does it look like to you? Kirk exhaled deeply. I start by handing over my phone, he said, voice strong. You may see my texts anytime. I'll erase nothing, conceal nothing. Jock glanced. Rasheeda gulped. That's a start, she remarked in a brittle tone. But genuine. Karlie nodded approvingly. Transparency is important, she remarked, but sometimes we need more than words. The host leaned in and asked what else. Kirk's brow wrinkled. I'll attend therapy groups for couples and people, he stated. I'll share. Schedules invite you to meetings. Answer any inquiry, I'll show change by action, not promises. Rasheeda sat back. As the episode came to a close, Jock invited us stepping onto the stage via video conference. The screen sprang to life with a calm, empathic face. Thank you for joining. The presenter said that the counselor welcomed everyone and led them through a short the breathing practice encourages them too. They grounded themselves before Hefty during the talk. The studio lights decreased slightly. As Rasheeda, Kirk, Jock, and Karlie, following the counselor's guidance, the crowd was silently digesting everything. Following a spell of stillness, the counselor addressed Rasheeda and Kirk. Directly healing starts with listening. An affirmation. She remarked softly to Rasheeda. Share your grief, Kirk. Listen without defense, Rasheeda breathed. I felt invisible, she continued, her voice cracking. And I felt like I didn't matter because of your secrets. Kirk nodded as tears slipped down his cheeks. Above all, he said that I should have come to you were the first, Jock. And Karlie watched, supportive as the heart of their quarrel surfaced and met resolution, and that the vulnerable interaction with the counselor then turned to Jock. Third party assistance may be vital, she emphasized. Jock, your role is to provide empathy without taking, Jock nodded. I'll do my best. He spoke quietly. Karlie, as a friend, brought truth to light, turned to Rasheeda. I'm sorry. I suffered the quiet, she remarked. Genuinely, Rasheeda met Karlie's eyes. Rasheeda took a minute to compose herself. Tears glistened, yet her stance was, I'm terrified, she said. I'm not sure whether I can trust my heart again, but I owe it to myself to try, and I will. Attend treatment. With Kirk and I, we'll spend time recovering on my own, she said. I breathed and nodded to Kirk. If you keep being honest, we'll see where our love can go. Kirk's eyes brightened as he grabbed for her hand and held it tenderly. The host smiled and wiped a tear from her eye. Own eye, this is the beauty of vulnerability, she added. It does not, however, it may pave the door for growth. She turned to the counselor. Is there any last advice? The counselor provided a simple slogan, share, listen, forgive. The audience echoed the words. Softly, a communal prayer for healing. The lights darkened as they left the stage. Enveloped in a soft radiance, that Backstage quartet met for a last-minute jog, wrapped an arm around Rasheeda and Kirk. Karlie draws them into a group embrace. Standing just outside, her expression warm but pensive, they kept the hug in. Silence, each breath in the weight of their trip. Cameras rolled to catch this intimate scene freezes the moment for watchers globe. As the reunion special came to a conclusion, the host addressed the crowd one last time. We've seen a family being ripped apart by treachery, and we have observed the frail steps toward restoration. Nobody knows the future, except today. Demonstrates that truth. No matter how terrible it is, she took the first step toward something new. Grinned as the credits started to roll, signifying the end of this chapter. Fans of living rooms and internet forums discussed what would happen next. Rasheeda and Kirk might actually make it work for Jock to balance his friendships. Karlie would be welcomed back into their social circles. The media lighted up with speculations and well wishes. The promise of renewal. And the cameras would soon turn elsewhere. The echoes of their confessed, their tears, and a shaky rapprochement would linger. Long after the studio became quiet, so the Frost's most explosive chapter comes to an end. At least for now, you've seen confessions laid, naked secrets and raw emotions. Rasheeda is overflowing onto that reunion stage, and Kirk took their first shaky. Jock has taken measures to re-establish trust, stayed steady as both anchors and advocates. Karlie's startling revelation prompted no one could deny the reality, although many will questions stay unanswered. Rasheeda's wounded heart learns to trust. Kirk can again prove through. Day after day, he proves his value of forgiveness. Could Karlie find her way back into the circle she broke in search of? Now it's your time to tell us. What do you believe this is a tale of redemption in the making, or a cautionary tale betrayal that can never really heal? You feel that a single error should define a relationship, or love's resilience may overcome even the darkest wounds? Leave your opinions in the comments below. Your input might lead to the next twist in this story. If you're looking for more untold disclosures, insider drama from my favorite reality stars, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you will never miss an update. And if a roller coaster of allegiance and deception maintained, you are on the edge of your seat. Show some, give love a thumbs up, and share with friends who can't resist a controversy. Final DNA findings may have been disclosed. However, the repercussions is just starting. Stay tuned for the next episodes. Alliances will be examined using fresh evidence. May appear in every sincere. The apology will be evaluated against the echo of shattered promises. Until then, Keep watching, speculating, and remember when it arrives.